and get back to work on their behalf.
To my Democratic friends, don't overplay your hand.
We want the president to come to the table, negotiate how we can do this.
I think my first initiative as First Lady will be cyberbullying, because I have yet to see any progress made on that problem quite yet.
They did it! Bill Belichick, New England, Tom Brady, and the run by Dion Lewis.
Touchdown, Alshon Jeffrey on the Patriots at Super Bowl 52 in 2 weeks.
Good morning. You made it to another Monday. Hopefully you had a great weekend, and we appreciate you joining us here on Fox and Friends First to begin your week. It's going to be a great Monday. Let's make it a great one. I'm Heather Childers. Let's begin with that Fox News alert for you. There are a lot of work being done all weekend long. Day 3 of the government shutdown. Here's a live look at Capitol Hill, where just hours from now, senators from both sides of the aisle will huddle with hopes of getting 60 votes to pass a spending bill. Doug Luzader joins us now live from Washington, D.C. with what we can expect. Good morning, Doug.
Heather, good morning. Well, at least our lights are still on this morning. We will see this procedural vote, we think, in the Senate later on today. And this is an effort by Republicans to break this Democratic filibuster. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell says that has to happen first.
When the Democrat filibuster of the government funding bill ends, when it comes to an end, the serious bipartisan negotiations that have been going on for months now to resolve our unfinished business, military spending, disaster relief, health care, immigration, and border security will continue.
But if that vote fails, at least part of the federal government will remain shut down, and Democrats are holding their ground and holding out for a deal on DACA, those protections for illegal immigrants who came to the country as children.
We've had several conversations. Talks will continue, but we have yet to reach an agreement on a path forward that would be acceptable for both sides. For that reason, I object.
The president, meantime, calling for the nuclear option on Twitter. Here's what he wrote yesterday. Great to see how hard Republicans are fighting for our military and safety at the border. The Dems just want illegal immigrants to pour into our nation unchecked. If stalemate continues, Republicans should go to 51%, the nuclear option, and vote on real long-term budget. No CRs, no continuing resolutions. So that's the president really urging a change in the Senate filibuster rules. Seems unlikely to happen, but we think we will hear more from the president later today. He has an event scheduled at the White House to talk about school choice and tax cuts, and the shutdown, Heather, is very likely to come up.
All right, it continues, and like you said, those lights need to be on in D.C. because they have work to do. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Well, President Trump is not backing down on the border wall, and conservative columnist Ann Coulter says that he might be the only one. She's calling the stalemate in the Senate proof that lawmakers on both sides of the aisle are committed to standing in the president's way.
The fix is in. The donors control our government. For Mitch McConnell, Republican majority leader, to act as if his hands are tied, no, he ought to say there's a majority vote to pass something. The Constitution specifies, I think there are 5 times when you need a supermajority vote to override a president's veto, to go to war, that sort of thing for a constitutional amendment. So unless it's one of those 5 circumstances, it ought to be 51 votes. Even if you're going to have this ridiculous minority rules Senate, at least make them filibuster. They just say, oh, we have an intent to filibuster. If Mitch McConnell wanted to fund the government, he could do it. But I think the fix is in, and they all want to force Donald Trump's hand to do the exact same thing that he was elected to prevent, which is to pass an amnesty and not build a wall.
And the shutdown battle took a turn over the weekend when Democratic Congressman and fierce anti-Trumper Luis Gutierrez indicated that he's ready to break the party line.
If that's what it's going to take 800,000 young men and women and give them a chance to live freely and openly, then I'll roll up my sleeves. I'll go down there with bricks and mortar and begin to walk. Because,
So is this the first indication that Democrats are ready to make a deal with Republicans? Our political panel on deck to debate it in our next half hour, so stay tuned for that. And some explosive new messages revealing a shocking plot behind the Clinton email probe. And as more anti-Trump texts are turned over, others are apparently missing. Oh, Kelly Wright joins us now live from D.C. with some new details on the mystery. Good morning, Kelly.
Heather, good morning to you as well. It's important to note here that Special Counsel Robert Mueller assigned Peter Strzok to another department after he found out about his actions. Nevertheless, this new batch of text messages contains some shocking revelations involving the FBI's handling of its investigation into Hillary Clinton's email
Between
server.
1993 and 2001, Washington was engulfed by an endless series of scandals involving the presidency of William Jefferson Clinton.
That FBI agent Peter Strzok and FBI
allegations
lawyer
of
Lisa
suspicious
Page
land deals,
knew then presidential
mysterious
candidate Hillary
deaths,
Clinton would not face any
sexual
charges even
misconduct.
before she was interviewed by the FBI. Another text exchange, Page reveals to Strzok that then Attorney General Loretta Lynch knew in advance about then former FBI Director James Comey's plan to exonerate Hillary Clinton. The two texting each other on July 1st, 2016, stating this. They went on to say that timing looks like hell. Yeah, that is awful timing. It's a real problem and it's a real profile in courage since she knows who charged no charges will be brought. And then 4 days later, July 5th, 2016, Comey made this stunning announcement about Clinton.
Although there is evidence of potential violations of the statutes regarding the handling of classified information, our judgment is that no reasonable prosecutor would bring such a case. We are expressing to justice our view that no charges are appropriate in this case.
So many people recall that, and other texted pages between Strzok and Page revealed their disdain for then-candidate Donald Trump with texts that read, F Trump, and calling him a loathsome human, an idiot. And when Trump emerged as the likely Republican candidate, they texted this about President Trump versus Clinton race. We don't have that text, but we can show it to you in another hour. Stunning revelations here, Heather. The government may be in a shutdown, but it appears the matter with Hillary Clinton could be moving towards a showdown.
All right, Kelly Wright, live for us. Kelly, that is a big story, and then we will certainly follow it. Thank you very much.
Sure.
Well, the man who plotted to kill American soldiers in the name of ISIS will learn his fate today. The convicted terrorist will be sentenced after a short delay by a federal judge in Ohio for a plot to kill soldiers at a U.S. military base, execution style. Prosecutors say that he trained with the terror group in Syria before hoping to carry out the deadly attack in 2015. He faces up to 23 years in prison. And the parents accused of torturing and imprisoning their 13 children may have had even more victims. Detectives in California reportedly considering bringing some cadaver dogs to search their home for unknown children who may have been buried there. The parents, David and Louise Turpin, arrested after their 17-year-old daughter managed to escape and then called 911. They've pleaded not guilty to all the charges, but they could face up to 94 years in prison. Their children, ages 2 to 29, were found extremely malnourished, some even chained to furniture. Police say that they were only given one meal a day and one shower a year. And then a desperate search now underway for whoever set off 2 pipe bombs inside a mall. Shoppers evacuated after the devices ignited in a service corridor in Eagle Ridge Mall in Lake Wales, Florida. The devices causing damage to the ceiling and the walls, but no one was injured. A suspect was seen running from the mall and is described as a middle-aged white man wearing a gray shirt and a hat. Authorities are not calling this an act of terrorism. And just moments ago, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu welcoming Vice President Pence in Jerusalem. The Vice President spending 2 days in Israel during his tour of the Middle East. The two plan to discuss the Iranian nuclear program as well as ways to advance peace and security in the region before Pence addresses the Israeli parliament. His visit marks the highest-level U.S. visit to the region since the U.S. recognized Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. And the Super Bowl match is set. The Philadelphia Eagles will take on the New England Patriots. The Eagles were down early in the first quarter to the Minnesota Vikings, but found themselves up big soon after. Backup quarterback Nick Foles led the charge with several huge plays against one of the league's best defenses to claim the NFC title, 38-7. 24-20 win, but the first person to congratulate him, this ref, who quickly gave the 40-year-old a slap on the chest, leading to a social media conspiracy that the game was fixed. What do you think? Well, the Pats and the Eagles will face off February 4th. These two teams met in Super Bowl 39. Well, the time now is about 11 minutes after the top of the hour. The media quick to slam President Trump over what he said about the government shutdown 5 years ago.
I think that the president is an unreliable negotiating partner.
Donald Trump still doesn't understand how Congress works or how Washington works. So,
our next guest says the hypocrisy is unbelievable. Political analyst Ron Meyer breaks down the differences between the 2013 shutdown and this one.
I think my first initiative as First Lady will be cyberbullying, because I have yet to see any progress made on that problem quite yet.
So much for empowering women. An ugly night as stars use the awards to take aim at First Lady Melania Trump. And this isn't an ordinary can of soup. No, the big mistake that just cost one couple thousands of dollars.
Well, if you say who gets fired, it always has to be the top. I mean, problems start from the top, and they have to get solved from the top. And the president's the leader. And he's got to get everybody in a room, and he's got to lead. And he doesn't do that. He doesn't like doing that. That's not his strength.
Well, that was President Trump reacting to the government shutdown during a 2013 interview on Fox and Friends. Flash forward to today. The president critics are in the media, and they're now turning those comments into a full-fledged attack. Listen.
January 20th, 2017, he was named president of the United States. So the onus is on him.
A lot of this could have been avoided if the president had just stepped into the game and done that great negotiating thing that he likes to do so well.
He can't even make a budget deal. He's a con artist. He's a fraud. He doesn't know what he's doing.
But what they're not talking about are the key differences between then and now. And here to explain is political analyst for Red Alert Politics, Ron Meyer. Ron, thank you so much for joining us this morning. We appreciate it.
Hey, thanks, Heather.
So let's begin with what is impacted by this shutdown, okay? This one. Thousands of federal employees placed on furlough, meaning they won't report to work on Monday, today, and the military won't be paid, but will report for duty. Now, here's what's not impacted by the shutdown. Post offices not impacted. Social Security checks still in the mail. National parks remain open, most of them. Airports stay open, most of them, or they actually all stay open. So the difference between 2013 and now, and can you really make that comparison that the media is going so crazy over?
Well, certainly President Trump is making this shutdown a lot easier than President Obama did. President Obama wanted to inflict the maximum amount of pain because he thought Republicans would be blamed. And Republicans were blamed. So that's why he shut down the monuments, shut down the parks, shut down the post offices. And that's not what you're seeing this time. But the biggest difference is that how can you say President Trump isn't leading when he's given the Democrats literally all they wanted on this CR?
I call them legislative arsonists. They're there to burn down what we should be building up in terms of investments in education and scientific research and all that it is that make our country great and competitive.
It's sort of like this. Someone goes into your house, takes your wife and children hostage, and then says, let's negotiate over the price of your house. You know, we could do the same thing on immigration.
Really? really? Oh,
Yeah.
really, Ron?
Yeah, talk about hypocrisy. Talk about hypocrisy. So the biggest thing is everybody, and I think in some ways rightly, attacked Ted Cruz for being a part of the government shutdown in 2013. Now the senators who represent the military, the senators who represent the most federal workers, federal contractors, the senators here from Virginia, Tim Kaine, who ran for vice president, and Mark Warner, are the ones causing the shutdown. They are the ones being the arsonists. They're the ones holding the government hostage, and it's hurting their constituents directly. Yet they are not doing anything to try to lead on this issue. They aren't creating any sort of extension. They aren't trying to get out there and say, listen, we need to make sure our constituents are taken care of. They're just out there to try to undermine President Trump, and that's not really leading. Listen, I know not everybody's a big fan of the president in Northern Virginia or in the D.C. area, but guess what? He's the one trying to keep the government open right now, and that's what they want.
You know, even when you take a look at the headlines from some of the what's concerned liberal or mainstream media papers out there today, they're blaming the Democrats. They're saying that they are the ones not working with Republicans and causing this shutdown. So you know when it gets to that point that we have a problem here. Ron, thank you so much for joining us this morning. We'll see what happens today. What do you think will happen?
Well, I think we might see a bill, a 2-week bill or a 1-week extension just to try to keep the government open.
Yeah.
You know, I think the biggest thing is you got to make sure the military is paid. You have to make sure our veterans get their benefits, Social Security checks go out, some of those basic things. And I hope that at the very minimum they could at least get a week punt to try to work whatever it is out. The Democrats are trying to take a hostage over DACA. And so this, you know, I don't know if you're going to be able to get a DACA deal in a week. There's some still pretty big differences there. But hopefully a couple weeks, 3 weeks from now, that might make the difference.
Yeah, we're going to talk a little bit more about that later. Ron, thank you so much for joining us. We'll have you back. Well, the time now is about 20 minutes after the top of the hour. North and South Korea set to march into Olympic Stadium together. Analyst Gordon Chang says that South Korea's president is taking a huge risk in the political arena, and he joins us live to explain why up next. And they're in our country illegally, but one state could register those immigrants to vote automatically. Vote for the new plan that's sparking some controversy. Welcome back. Hundreds running for cover at an amusement park as Tokyo holds their first missile attack drill. Well, loudspeakers urging volunteers to seek shelter in the park's basement and in an underground subway station. This coming, of course, amid rising tensions with North Korea. The rogue nation has sent missiles flying over Japan at least twice. Well, North and South Korea expected to march in the opening ceremony of the Olympics behind the same flag. And the women's ice hockey team will be the first with players from both countries. But is this just a Trojan horse? Here now to discuss is Asia analyst Gordon Chang. Gordon, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you, Heather.
So what do you think about this? I just want your, overall idea in terms of North and South Korea banding together in this march that they'll do during the Olympics and also this ice hockey team. What does this mean?
Well, first of all, this whole Olympics participation by North Korea in the South Korean Olympics that start next month, it is in a sense a Trojan horse. The North Koreans are trying to use the Olympics to create a sort of pro-North Korean feeling in South Korea. They want money from Seoul. They also want Seoul to move away from Washington. In other words, to drive a wedge between the two alliance partners. So the North Koreans are up to no good. Now, with regard to this women's ice hockey team, as you point out, this is the first time that North and South Korea are fielding a unified team in a sport. And the one thing that this has caused a problem for South Korea's Moon Jae-in, who is sort of very pro-North Korean, is that most South Koreans, not only conservatives, but also his own political base, don't like this. More than 70% of South Koreans are against the unified team. And largely it's because South Korean athletes who've trained for the last 4 years are being turfed off the team in order to make way for North Koreans. And people in South Korea, even if they like President Moon Jae-in, think that this is really unfair.
I mean, really, if you think about it in that way, it is. But I know you and I discussed before he took over as president there in South Korea that they knew coming in that he believed in negotiation with North Korea, that he believed that it was possible to discuss things with them moving forward, and that would be his strategy.
Yeah, so he was chief of staff to Roh Moo-hyun, who was the most pro-North Korean of South Korea's president. He governed from 2003 to 2008. Roh Moo-hyun had a peace and prosperity policy, which was essentially giving unrestricted amounts of money to North Korea over an indefinite period of time, because the feeling was that North Korea would eventually come around. But the problem is that during Roh Moo-hyun's administration and during the preceding one of Kim Dae-jung, what happened was the North Koreans became more provocative as they got more and more of Seoul's money. And so this has been proven not to work. It sounds nice, but as a matter of theory, but in practice, the North Koreans have used this very much against the South.
Right.
And now, if they were to get money from Seoul, which they are for the Olympics, they're going to use it not for athletics. They're going to use it basically to launch missiles, detonate nukes, and engage in other dangerous activities. So this is really going to be an issue between South Korea and the rest of the world that wants to see an end to North Korea's programs.
I wanted to ask you that finally, Gordon. How does that impact what we're trying to do, what the United States and President Trump is trying to do in terms of North Korea?
President Trump's main policy is to cut off money flows to North Korea. South Korea is paying the cost of hundreds of North Koreans who are going to attend the Olympics. There are just a few athletes, but there's a 140-strong art troupe, 230 cheerleaders, a taekwondo instruction team, all the rest of these people, maybe 600-700, they're going to be paid for by South Korea. That undermines UN and U.S. sanctions.
All right, Gordon Chang, live for us. Thank you, Gordon. We appreciate your insight as always. We certainly do.
Thank you, Heather.
Thanks. Well, the time now is about 28 minutes after the top of the hour, and thousands of women and celebrities march across America for women's rights and against President Trump. The president on Twitter touting his accomplishments for women. But is he right? Army vet Kathy Barnett here live with a reality check for all those protesters. And a high-stakes vote set for noon today as the government shutdown enters day 3. Who is to blame and which side is going to give in? Our political panel on deck to debate it up next. And we are back with a Fox News alert for you. The Kabul Hotel 17-hour bloodbath may have been an insider attack. Authorities say that Taliban fighters got in through a VIP-only access gate reserved for government officials and high-ranking diplomats. The door not only requires pre-clearance, but also additional scans and checkpoints. At least 18 people, including 14 foreigners, were killed in the massacre. And friction between Capitol Hill and the FBI is intensifying. The agency has not been allowed to see the controversial memo alleging government surveillance abuse. That is according to the Daily Beast. The highly classified report outlines concerns that the FBI and the Justice Department used FISA inappropriately to snoop on the Trump campaign. Well, GOP Congressman Dave Joyce says that the American people are one step closer to seeing that memo, and he will join Fox and Friends live later this morning to discuss the push for its release. And a woman falls to her death dropping 2 stories off the balcony of a cruise ship. It happened on the Carnival Elation during a 4-day cruise from Jacksonville, Florida to the Bahamas. Her identity is still unknown. This marking the 2nd death on a Carnival cruise ship in just the past year. And a charity promising to take care of families of our fallen soldiers killed fighting for our freedom during the government shutdown. The Fisher House Foundation promising to pay $100,000 in benefits within days of a military death. Vice President Mike Pence also standing up for our American heroes, railing Democrats for hurting our troops during a speech at a U.S. airbase near the Syrian border.
A minority in the Senate has decided to play politics with military pay. We're going to demand that they reopen the government. In fact, we're not going to reopen negotiations on illegal immigration until they reopen the government and give you, our soldiers, and your families the benefits and wages you've earned.
All military service members still have to report for duty but can't be paid for any work after Saturday's shutdown. And the government shutdown officially entering its first full work day. A live look at Capitol Hill. where the lights better be on, because there's a lot of work to be done. In just a few hours, Congress will return and try to get everything back open. Democrats refusing to come to the table for a vote overnight. So what can we expect today? Here to weigh in, our panel, former GOP Congresswoman Dr. Nan Hayworth and Democratic strategist Chuck Rocha. Thank you both for joining us.
Good morning. Pleasure. Thank you, Heather.
So, Nan, I'll start with you. A lot of work needs to be done. What do you think will happen today? There's a vote at noon.
Well, the Democrats are cynically counting on political benefit for this shutdown, which is unfortunately the only reason they're doing it. There is no need to do this, Heather. Everything in the continuing resolution is spending that they've approved or measures that they've approved, including delaying some Obamacare taxes. So the only reason they're doing this is to cause political turmoil that they think will help them. So they better get to the negotiating table today very seriously, because the DACA deadline isn't here yet, and the government does have to pay our troops.
Yeah, and Chuck, the DACA deadline, as we know, is not until March. And it does appear, as we've been discussing, that the Democrats have received everything they want in this continuing resolution. Even CHIP is included in it. They wanted that. So what's their problem?
I think there's just a stalemate between them and the White House. The White House said what we need is a good shutdown. The Republicans brought us a good shutdown, and so here we are today. I think they need to come to the table and take up the Democratic. First thing they need to do this morning is what Claire McCaskill did on Friday, was to bring a resolution that said, let's pay our military, that the Republicans even refused to hear. That's crazy. We should be taking care of our military.
So you blame the Republicans. You think that it's the Republicans' responsibility for the shutdown?
American people are smart enough to know the Democrats don't control anything in Washington, D.C., and this is not our shutdown. We passed a tax bill with 51 votes. All the clearance here, the clearance there. The Republicans have absolute control of this.
Nan?
Chuck, as you know very, very well, the Republicans don't have a governing majority in the Senate. A governing majority in the Senate is 60 votes. They get to pass one bill a year, basically, with 51 votes, and they did that last year. They need to pass a budget. I frankly agree with the president. I would bust the filibuster that requires this 60-vote threshold and make it 51 votes so that we can get things moving, because it's the Democrats who are holding things up.
Man, you can go out and tell all the American people about procedural responses in the Senate, but what they know is Republicans won a lot of elections now, and they're in control, and our government is shut down.
You know what I can tell you? I think that people are getting tired of both sides pointing the finger at the other side, and then in the meantime, nothing's getting done. So ultimately, who's going to pay the price for this down the road, Chuck?
You know, that's a good question. I don't really do policy, and Nan and you would understand because of how I talk. I don't do policy, but I do run campaigns. And when I run campaigns, it's going to be either one. Now, we got to blame the Republicans last time, and we got it, but then they won back seats in the Senate. Who knows how long it lasts is the real key here. And how much people really hurt, I think, is the key.
Yeah, and Nan, that's a good way to end it. How long do you think this will last?
Well, I think both sides have reason to get this resolved very quickly, Heather. And I agree with Chuck that, the politics can go either way. But the president is the one who can make the strongest argument for CHIP, for our troops. He is doing so. And I am confident that the American public knows his heart is with them.
Yeah. All right. Chuck, Nan, thank you both for joining us. Appreciate it. Chuck, I think you're great with policy and campaigns. So we'll leave it there. Thank you. We'll see what happens today. Well, the Screen Actors Guild Awards turning political in the first few minutes. First Lady Melania Trump getting roasted by host Kristen Bell.
There has never been a host for this award show before. Yeah, it's the first time, first person, First Lady. I think my first initiative as First Lady will be cyberbullying, because I have yet to see any progress made on that problem quite yet. And I'm
Well, the show also putting the Me Too movement in the spotlight, featuring an all-women version of the traditional I'm an Actor segment, with Tracy Ellis Ross saying that she uses her position to promote equality. Among some of the top winners, 3 billboards outside Ebbing, Missouri won Best Motion Picture Cast, and This Is Us won Best Drama Series Cast. And we want to know what you thought of the SAG Awards. If you saw it, leave your thoughts on our Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram pages, or send us an email. Now, you know how President Trump feels about protecting the border, right?
We are building a wall on the southern border, which is absolutely necessary. Build that wall. Build that wall.
We have the shocking new numbers that prove the wall is more important than ever. Plus, the dangerous Tide Pod challenge takes a sickening turn. The college student now hospitalized by the social media stunt. And grab your groceries without any money or waiting in line. We'll take you inside Amazon's store of the future. that is opening today.
Do not worry. We are going to build the wall.
Well, some new numbers now showing that we need to heed President Trump's desires to build the southern border wall. The Mexican government reporting its highest homicide rate in decades, with over 29,000 murders in 2017. That's a 27% increase since 2016. Earlier this month, the U.S. issued the highest level travel warning for parts of Mexico over extreme violence. And California could soon allow illegal immigrants to automatically register to vote. Some new rules going into effect in April will automatically register anyone with a driver's license to vote. Illegal immigrants are allowed to get licenses in California. The rules require the DMV to forward records of eligible applicants to the Secretary of State's office unless they choose otherwise. And now to the Fox Business Alert for you. Grab your milk and go. Amazon's new store opening today with no money and no lines. Tracy Carrasco from our sister network Fox Business here with how the checkout-free convenience store actually works. Good morning, Tracy.
Good morning, Heather. Yes, Amazon is once again changing the way that people shop. So this new store in Seattle called Amazon Go opening up today. You just go in, you scan the app when you enter, and then you just start shopping and you can walk out. As you said, there are no lines, no cashiers. You just walk out with whatever you're buying. So there are sensors and there are cameras everywhere that are they're tracking what you buy. So that's how it knows what you're purchasing. And you can just walk out. But you have to sign up for the app first and scan it to enter the store. So that links all of your payment information there. But no lines. That's pretty cool.
Tracking what you buy, so then they can send you advertisements and things like that.
Well,
maybe.
yeah.
I don't know. We'll see if that happens. Delta adding some requirements for service animals?
Yeah, so it's going to be a little harder if you are flying with your emotional support animal or your service animal on Delta. So they've had a lot of incidents recently. Since 2016, the complaints have more than doubled, and more people are flying with their pets in the cabins. So you're now going to have to show your animal's health or vaccinations before you fly starting on March 1st. And you're also going to have to sign a statement vouching that your animal can behave. So all of these changes coming into effect very soon.
Well, that makes sense.
Yeah,
I'm surprised they didn't do that before.
Yeah, more people are flying with their animals, so they've had to change.
Yeah, okay, something that we've had before, it's coming back, Peeps Oreos.
Yes, so Peeps Oreos starting to appear on shelves, but they've got to change this year. So last year they came out with the golden cookie and the pink marshmallow Peeps cream. This year they've got the chocolate cookie and a lavender Peeps marshmallow cream. So those are starting to appear on shelves now. Look pretty good. I'd give them a shot.
I don't understand. Does it look like the Oreo or does it look like the Peep?
Oreo. No, it looks like an Oreo. So the center is like a Peep flavor.
So it's the Oreo with the Peep smashed in between.
There you go. That's exactly it.
Thank you so much, Tracy. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Heather.
Well, the women's marches around the country turning into a big anti-Trump rally.
His bigotry and his sexism, his Muslim ban, his bragging about assault.
So is it a hate Trump march or is it a pro-women march?
For me, it's, I would say, 50-50.
But do they actually know what the president has done to help women and our military? Army vet Kathy Barnett here with a reality check up next.
Trump simply represents a lot of the issues that we stand against.
We've tolerated years of his bigotry and his sexism, his Muslim ban, his bragging about assault.
So is it a hate Trump march or is it a pro-women march?
For me, it's, I would say, 50-50.
50-50. Well, rallies across the country as the second annual Women's March takes aim at President Trump. Our commander-in-chief taking to Twitter to respond, touting the accomplishments that he's made for women over the last 12 months, including the lowest female unemployment in 18 years. And here to react is military veteran Kathy Barnett. Kathy, we always appreciate you coming in for us bright and early.
Thank you.
And just
market early. I'm here.
So let's begin there, because this was the Women's March. You know, it took place all across the country. You heard one of the participants there saying that it was 50-50 anti-Trump, pro-women. And take a look at this. So a good part to begin with is the women's unemployment rate. It's at 4% right now. So the good work that he's doing not being recognized.
No, it's not. You know, I am convinced that the Democratic Party has a four-pronged strategy: DACA for electoral votes, racism, collusion, and #resist. And that is what we saw on full display this weekend at the Women's March. And that is all they have moving into 2018 midterm elections. And it's the very reason why I asked myself, after a year of this president, can I be a pro-Trump and a good person? Because if you close your eyes and just listen to the rhetoric all around us, you would think you're back in civil rights movement days. But this is not 1950, nor is it 1850 before the Emancipation Proclamation. So as an avid Trump supporter, I wanted to know, how has this president benefited the community that I'm a part of? Yeah. As a black woman, as a mother, as a veteran. And I came to the conclusion that after looking beyond his tweets, looking at his policies, I can be pro-Trump and a good person.
Yeah. Unfortunately, though, people take a look at these tweets and they don't get onto, you know, statistics like what we just had, the women's unemployment rate, 4%, a 17-year low.
A 17-year low, but also African-American unemployment rate at a 45-year low.
Yeah, and we could take a look at that as well.
At 6.8%. That's the equivalent of 480,000 jobs. That's not a moot point. That's a real statistic of 480,000 jobs now occupied by black people. That's huge, coupled with over 100 companies giving out bonuses and other benefits. We have Apple repatriating billions of dollars, creating thousands of jobs.
And we can show a list of some of those companies as well that as you're discussing it. I mean, so these aren't the things that people are paying attention to.
No, because again, if you close your eyes and just listen to the bombardment of rhetoric that we're getting, this president is everything from a narcissist to a racist to senile to corrupt. But when you look at what he has actually done to the various communities, even as a veteran, there are over 20 million veterans. Tragically, 22 veterans commit suicide every single day. But despite the haggling we've seen with tax reform and health care, somehow Secretary Shulkin has been able to rise above the partisan divide and actually make real systemic progress there. Even the national security. As a mother, national security is just as important to me as making sure I lock every single door before I go to bed at night.
So who do you blame for the message not getting out there in terms of the unemployment figures for both women and African Americans and in terms of the military and the things that are being done?
Maybe everyone points to it, but mainstream media, in addition to the Democratic Party, when you have Maxine Waters going around talking about, I'm going to take this president out, when you have Kathy Griffin holding up severed heads of the president, even Jen Psaki, who is a comedian writer for Late Night Jimmy Fallon, saying if you're a Trump supporter, you should have your children taken away. This is the bombardment that we're getting all over the place. And unless you come to outlets like Fox News and a couple of other smaller outlets, you're really not getting a full picture of the facts.
And it's doing a disservice, obviously, to
our nation, to our military, to where we're going.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it. And we will be right back. Stay with us.